Inductive-deductive coding and analysis. Bottom-up versus top-down. An experiential critical orientation to data. For example, experiential reports experiences and meanings, examines representation and construction of particular phenomenon. A critical, realist /essentialist constructionist theoretical perspective. What does this mean though? Most qualitative approaches are methodologies theoretically informed frameworks for research. Determines theoretical assumptions. Research questions, ideal methods of data collection, sampling strategies, and analytic procedures. TAR is a method, not a methodology. Exceptions to this, as some approaches to TAR adopt particular philosophical assumptions. What is thematic analysis? Kant works with a wide range of research question, experiences, understandings, perceptions, practices, representations and constructions of a phenomenon, cultural rules, norms. It can be applied to different types of data. For example, interviews, focus groups, qualitative surveys, story completion, diary data, secondary sources, blogs, forum data, police reports. Works with large or small data sets. Produces data-driven or theory-driven analyses. Utilized in applied research, ethnography, action research. One method or approach. Three broad approaches, Clark et al., 2019. Coding reliability, approaches oriented around coding reliability, for example, Boyatzis, 1998, Guessed It. Al., 2012. Reflexive/organic, for example, Braun and Clark, Hayes, 2000. Codebook, approaches based on structured codebook and qualitative philosophy, for example, framework analysis, template analysis, matrix analysis. Each has different processes and assumptions. Reflexive TAR approach by Braun and Clark, 2006. Renamed Reflexive Thematic Analysis in 2019. Differs from other approaches in terms of underlying philosophy and procedures for theme development. Depth of engagement from researcher. Themes as pattern of shared meaning underpinned by a central concept. Why reflexive? Active role of the researcher. Questioning orientation, active dialogue with the self. Social justice agenda. Giving voice. Possibilities. Straightforward. Describes. Summarizes. Gives voice. Interprets. Sophisticated. Tells a story. Locates data / participants within the wider social, cultural, historical, political, ideological contexts. Interpretative. Theoretical / conceptual analysis. Makes an argument. Examples of research questions. People's conceptualizations or ways of thinking about social phenomena. Men's accounts of body image and appearance, Frith and Gleason, 2004. Women's experience of polycystic ovarian syndrome, Kitzinger and Wilmot, 2002. Heterosexual, bisexual and lesbian women's accounts of being childfree, Hayfield, Terry, Clark and Ellis, 2019. Media representations of female genital cosmetic surgery, Braun, 2005. How young people talk about intimate partner relationships, Abbott, Wekesser and Egan, 2020. 6 Phases for Analysis, Braun and Clark, 2019. Familiarizing yourself with the dataset. Coding. Generating initial themes. Developing and reviewing themes. Refining, defining and naming themes. Writing up. Analysis is not linear. Designed to be used as a tool that facilitates the process. Research example. Malik and Coulson, 2008. Topic/aim, examining men's experiences of infertility. Data type, forum messages on online support group. Sampling approach, selected messages posted to the men's room over 18-month period, 728. Messages /52 threads. Analysis, inductive TAR conducted within an experimental framework. Generated 4 key themes. Themes. Supporting dearest partner is our key role. Men felt their role in the fertility treatment process was to support their partner, and they used the support group to gain advice on fulfilling their role. Us blokes are mere spectators in most people's eyes. Many men reported feeling unimportant and lonely in relation to the treatment process, which, for some, was compounded by the fact that many health professionals did not appreciate the emotional impact of infertility on men. Themes. Sometimes a male perspective is needed. Many men appreciated the emotional support and practical advice of other men going through a similar process. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I can't help it. Some men used the message board to articulate their hopes and fears with regard to the treatment. Many of these men reported conflicting and multiple emotions, and often an effort was made to suppress positive emotions. Research example. Anderson and Clark, 2019. Topic/aim, explore disgust and shame associated with, and the related psychosocial impact of skin picking. Data type, forum messages on online support group. Sampling approach, selected messages posted to the forum, 73 chronological posts dated 2004 to May 2013 and 27 chronological posts dated May 2013 to 2015. Analysis, experimental, inductive approach to reflexive TAR. Critical realist framework. Generated 3 key themes. Themes. Get out of my skin. Many accounts described being unable to tolerate anything that was experienced as abnormal and needing to get every last bit out with disregard for the damage done to the skin. I am shameful. There was a general acknowledgement that skin picking was a shameful experience. This shame was shown to impact on how individuals revealed their stories. Some acknowledged that they found it difficult to disclose despite the anonymity of the forum. No one must ever see. Throughout the data, there was an emphasis on hiding skin picking by carefully concealing any damage and by avoiding exposing situations. Research example. Beers and Farvid, 2010. Topic/aim, young women's accounts of heterosexual casual sex experiences. Data type, semi-structured interviews. Participants, women aged 19 to 25. Analysis, deductive, constructionist approach to reflexive TAR. Generated 3 key themes. Themes. 1. Care for the self. Self-care was explicitly evident in some women's reports of setting limits in casual sex. This was either in reports of activities they participated in or enforced, such as condom use, or the contexts in which they were willing to participate in casual sex. 2. Self-reflection. Some women interviewed often implemented self-care strategies as a result of reflecting on their previous casual sex experiences. Some women went beyond a reflection on specific casual sex experiences and reflected on their desire for engaging in casual sex more broadly. 3. Care for the other. There were a couple of women who talked quite deliberately about caring for the other. While these women were focused on forms of care related to physical health, other women demonstrated care for the other differently. For example, they reported concerns for their partner's emotional well-being and willingness to engage in casual sex activity. With the person next to you, discuss the following. What is the purpose of thematic analysis? Thematic analysis is theoretically flexible. What does this mean? What is the difference between inductive and deductive analysis? What is meant by latent and semantic analysis? What is the difference between coding and themes? Strengths. TAR is theoretically flexible, not atheoretical. TAR is a method, not a methodology. No specified theory, but the researcher should specify the theory the researcher is using. TAR can be used in a variety of ways. Versatile with different types of data. Hybrids / combination approaches. The qualitative systematic review, feminist TAR. Practical aspects. Sample size. How many participants? Can be applied to large or small datasets. Rough rule of thumb for UG, small projects 5 to 6 participants *. Data collection. When to stop. Less saturation and more information power. Malta Ard, 2016. Depends on the research question, method, sample, data. Analysis. By hand or using software. No one way but should be systematic. Things to be aware of. Analytic work is key. Themes don't just emerge. Ensure what you have is a theme and not just an overview / summary of the main things. Participants have said or trends, topic summaries versus stories, Braun and Clark. Topic summaries, everything / main things participants communicated about a topic. Stories and shared meanings, patterns of shared meaning underpinned by a central concept. Multifaceted and may cut across topics. Tell a story. Things to be aware of. Themes are not your interview topics / questions. Analytic outputs that can't be identified at the start requires interpretative work. Theme development is a process and evolves. Initial themes are provisional and are refined. Naming of themes is important. Read TAR papers and practice coding data where possible. Examples of key concepts and steps. What does a transcript / data look like? Word-for-word write-up of what was said. Captures the exact spoken word, including pauses, false starts, errors. Speaker labels, identifies the person speaking. Line numbers. What does a coded transcript look like? By hand on printed transcript. Code in Word / Excel, using comment function. Having a go. Activity. Activity, applying phase 1 of TAR. The topic of these interviews is friendship research question. How do university students understand friendship when in higher education? These are extracts from 2 participants' interviews. Note, they are not the full transcripts but simply extracts from each interview. Task. Phase 1 of TAR, read through the extracts provided and familiarize yourself with the data. Write notes on initial observations. Discuss what is interesting in relation to the topic. Understanding of friendships, in pairs. Activity, Coding, Phase 2 of TA. Phase 2 of TA, have a go at coding the data that is related to friendship. The approach you will be taking is inductive. Tips. Code line by line. Interesting features of the data. Simple label, more than a single word. Surface meaning, summarizes what is said. Asterisk next week, we will organize the codes into themes. Bring your notes / transcripts. Resources. Textbooks. Clark, V., and Braun, V. 2021. Thematic Analysis, a Practical Guide. Thematic Analysis, 1 to 100, in Library. Websites. Braun and Clark Thematic Analysis website, https://www.thematicanalysis.net/. References. Braun, V. and Clark, V. 2006. Using Thematic Analysis in Psychology. Qualitative Research in Psychology, 3, 2, 77-101. Braun, V. and Clark, V. 2019. Reflecting on Reflexive Thematic Analysis. Qualitative Research in Sport, Exercise and Health, 11, 4, 589-597. Braun, V., Clark, V., and Hayfield, N. 2019. A starting point for your journey, not a map, Nikki Hayfield in conversation with Virginia Braun and Victoria Clark about thematic analysis. Qualitative Research in Psychology. Introduction to your PSY 5046 assessments. By the end of this workshop, you will know what your assessments are. Understand where everything is on the Moodle page. Know what research you should be accessing and using. Have chosen a research question for Assessment 1. Activity 1, Understanding the assessments. Download, save and read the assessment briefs for the research report, 90%, and ethics quiz, 10%. Your workshop tutor will go through the briefs and the learning outcomes. Activity 2, helping you to navigate the module Moodle page. Try to find out as much information as you can, work with others or individually, from the module Moodle page and answer these questions. Make sure you save all the required documents on your BCU OneDrive account. 1. Name all members of teaching staff. 2. What is your essential reading for this module? 3. What are your deadlines for your formative and summative submissions? 4. What is your word count for the report? 5. What is the latest date you can complete the ethics quiz and submit your interview questions? For ethical review. Activity 3, Reading Qualitative Research. Read through the literature in the Week 1 workshop folder. In pairs or triads, identify the following research question or aim. The mode of data collection. The type of analysis. Activity 4, Choosing your research question. Whenever we do research, it is important that we have a research question to guide us. This is what we want to find out by doing the research. We have told you that the topic of your research is university students, but you also need to choose one research question to narrow down the focus of your research. 1. What are undergraduate students' experiences of belonging at university? 2. How do higher education students describe their transition to university experience? 3. What aids making friends at university for students? 4. How do university students understand their first-year experience? Independent work. Download the cover sheet for your research report. Complete with your information and read through the marking criteria listed under the learning outcomes. Use this document to write your assessment. It includes your headings and suggested word counts for each section, for you to use for your report. Download, save and read the assessment guidance document. Download, save and read the Gantt chart to use as a guide for what you should work on each week. Introducing Discourse Analysis in Psychology. Dr. Josephine Cornell. PSY 5046, Qualitative Research Methods and Analysis. Lecture Overview. What is discourse analysis? Overview of some discursive approaches. How to do discourse analysis. Example of a discursive study. Content note. In this lecture we will look at some data in which police officers discuss violence in protests. What is a discourse? Discourses. A cluster of ideas. Groups of statements and images that give meaning to reality. Construct objects and subjects. What is a discourse? Discourse focused on language and meaning. Two key meanings, reflecting two key approaches. Communication by words, talk and speech, a linguistic unit longer than a sentence. Discourses as linguistic constructs / texts which shape how we can think and talk about a given phenomena, give meaning to reality, for example political discourses, media discourses. Discourse analysis. A set of approaches to qualitative analysis focused on language and meaning. But more than an approach to qualitative analysis, different approach to knowledge and psychology. Different way of seeing the world, theoretical lens. Understanding of psychological phenomena. Understanding of the function of language. Role for the social in psychology. Discourse analysis and critique of traditional psychology. The arises in 1970s and 80s as part of turn to language in social science, influence by social theory and philosophy of 1960s focused on language, meaning and representation. Develops as critique of mainstream cognitive psychology, critique assumptions about the relationship between language and the mind. Whether we can access the mind through talk. Whether objective reality can be theoretically observed. Whether psychological structures exist and endure. Role of the researcher. View of language in traditional psychology. Language as representational. People's verbal expression provide information about the cognitions that reside in their minds. Cognitive. Words constitute true representations of internal mental states, fixed. Cognitions are based on perceptions capture reality, objective reality can be measured. Language is not representational. When people state a belief, they are taking part in a conversation that has purpose and in which people have stake, social. Emphasize the role of language as social action, people are doing things with their words. Flexible. Language constructs social reality, no objective reality, multiple constructions of a given phenomena can exist. View of language in discourse analysis. Some discursive approaches. Discourse analytic approaches, discursive psychology. Discursive psychology. Influenced by ethnomethodology, Harold Garfinkel, and conversation analysis. Considered as psychology as it is concerned with psychological phenomena such as memory or identity. Focus on talk in interaction. How do people use discursive resources in social interaction? Discourse practices. What do people do with language and for what purposes? Action not attribution. More micro in focus. 2 levels to it. Focus on language and utterances. Focus on broader but localized meanings. Discourse analytic approaches, FDA. Foucauldian discourse analysis, FDA. Influenced by historical and philosophical studies of Michel Foucault, explored how systems of representation shapes psychological world. In psychology, explores how societal discourses and ways of understanding the world are reproduced in talk. More macro in focus. Interested in power, how language allows and disallows versions of the world. Power, discourses facilitate and limit, enable and constrain what can be said, by whom, where and when. What kind of objects are constructed through talk? Why are particular discourses the way they are? Advantages. Can capture multiple meanings, account for variability in psychological phenomena. Critical, of existing power structures, who can say what, and why certain versions of reality are talked into being. Strong interpretative power and can make claims of language. Disadvantages. Can be over-focused on language what is beyond discourse, talk and text. For example, the body, emotions, etc. What is the relationship with material reality? DP limited in what it can say about why certain people use and deploy certain constructions. For example, why are they racist? Why not use a better discursive strategy? Different approaches have different focuses, debate whether should be distinct micro and macro focused analytic strategies, Language 2014. Synthesized to allow for complementary micro and macro analysis, Weatherill 1998. Approaches still share common concerns with how human beings negotiate meanings and make sense of the world. Language as productive and performative. Social constructionism. One language is constructive/productive. The social world/reality is made through language not reflected by it. 2 language is functional/performative. Words, phrases, practices and ways of speaking and understanding do things, and are deployed for particular purposes. Language as mirror. Language as toolbox. Adapted from Free-Smith, 2007. Language and social constructionism. Social objects, constructed by the discourse's choice of description, and the associations it implicitly makes. Whichever choice you make, and whatever associations you imply, you will help to construct, or constitute, a certain social object. For DP and FDA, the choice of one description over another, and the association of one description with another, is significant. Key: the categories of the world are not ready-made, nor is any use of them neutral. Ways we construct the world/world is constructed, different possible versions. Never neutral, always present a version of reality for a purpose. Language as functional. Language is a toolkit. Allows us to achieve social ends and construct the world in certain ways for certain purposes. Using language, words and sentence constructions, to blame, defend, justify, describe. Example, disclaiming. I'm not racist but. I'm not sexist but. Tool, discursive device, for building credibility. Explicit disavowal of stance or opinion a speaker advocates. A speaker may use this when they know that what they are about to say may attract criticism. This way they deny the criticism before it can even be made. List of discursive devices. Category entitlement, assert belonging to a particular group to enhance trustworthiness and legitimacy. Consensus, reporting something as if many or all people are in agreement. Corroboration, reporting something as if supported by an independent source. Disclaimer, anticipates rejection or challenge. Footing and pronoun use, identifying when and where speakers use different pronouns to refer to themselves and others. Stake management, stake confession / stake inoculation. All speakers have a particular stake / interest. 3-part list, emphasize the extent or variability of something. Hedging, talk is marked in some way as provisional, tentative or conditional on some other events. Minimization, use of words such as just, only, little bit. Extreme case formulation, extreme expressions such as every, all, none, best, least, as good as. It gets, always, perfectly, brand new, and absolutely used to defend against challenges. Softening / minimization, use of words such as just, mostly, almost, few, hardly any, etc., despite being weaker claims, can be factually and rhetorically more robust, harder to challenge. Passive voice, precludes agency. Repetition, places emphasizes. Direct quotation, used to manage accountability and legitimacy. Nominalization, change a clause with a verb into a noun. For example, employees produce steel equals steel. Production, works to exclude / hide social agents, can obfuscate agency and responsibility. List of discursive devices. Activity. Go to the Padlet link below and complete the discursive devices quiz. 15-minute break. Doing discourse analysis in psychology. Data types. Primarily textual, transcripts of speeches, interviews and focus groups, forums, policy documents, media, etc., but some visual methods as well, photo elicitation, videos, public health campaigns, advertisements, etc. Doing discourse analysis in psychology. How to do discourse analysis. Iterative, intuitive process best learned by doing. Similar to thematic encoding and establishing commonalities and differences in data, but focus on language, DP, and discourse, FDA, makes it very different. See Willig, Edwards and Potter and Parker in further reading sections for good explanations of how to get started with different types of discourse analysis. Reflexivity. Key part of discourse analytic process. Researchers' subjectivity, both identity categories and theoretical assumptions, must be considered. How has the researcher have generated data, affected its generation, and why, needs to be reflected on and written about. Reflexivity checks. How has my gender, sexuality, race, age, class, culture etc. influenced my interactions with participants? What were my interactions with the participants like? Why? What assumptions did I have about the participants? What assumptions did I have about the data? Why? 23. Doing discursive psychology. Core principles of discursive psychology. Discourse is both constructed and constructive. Constructed equals discourse is constructed through a range of cultural resources, words, intonation, gesture and culturally available phrases and expressions. Constructive equals bringing particular versions of reality, particular truths into being. Discourse is situated within a social context, an interactional context, a rhetorical framework. within the turn-taking sequence of interaction. Discourse is action-orientated. If discourse constructs particular versions of reality, and these constructions are situated in particular social contexts, then there will be particular functions or actions that are accomplished by the discourse. Wiggins, 2017, pp. 8-16. Analysis in Discursive Psychology. The focus of analysis is on how participants use discursive resources and with what effects. How do the speakers manage stake and interest? What discursive strategies do speakers use? What is the function of these discursive strategies in a particular discursive context? From Willig, 2009. Doing Foucauldian Discourse Analysis. Some Guidelines for FDA from Willig, 2008. Stage 1, Discursive Constructions. What is the discursive object? How has the discursive object been constructed? Stage 2, Discourse. Locate the various discursive constructions of the object within wider discourses. Stage 3, Action Orientation. Examine the discursive contexts within which the different constructions of the object are being deployed. What is gained from constructing the object in this particular way at this particular point within the text? What is its function and how does it relate to other constructions produced in the surrounding text? Some Guidelines for FDA. From Willig, 2008. Stage 4, Positionings. Discourses construct subjects and make certain positions available that speakers can take up. What subject positions are made possible and available? Stage 5, Action. Discourses open up or close down opportunities by constructing certain versions of the world. And by positioning subjects in particular ways, discourses limit what can be said and done. Map the possibilities for action enabled by this discursive construct and discourse. Stage 6, Subjectivity. Discourses also make certain ways of being in the world possible and construct social and psychological realities. What are the consequences of taking up the available subject positions for the speaker's subjective experience? Example of a discursive study. Examining police officers and protesters' talk on violent protest in South Africa. Discursive context. Marikana massacre. South African police shot and killed 34 protesters in 2012. Police often blamed for protest violence in public discourse. Police officers suspicious of researchers studying protest violence. Looked at the discursive strategies police officers and protesters use in focus group discussions on violent protest. Taken from Cornell et al. In Press. Researching Protest Policing in South Africa, a Discourse. Analysis of the police researcher encounter. Policing. Captain, have you guys ever been on the police side of a riot? Interviewer 1, no. Interviewer 2, no. Captain, I think maybe as a practical experience you should come and see what it is like on the ground, because to sit here in this room discussing it is a totally different thing, from actually getting on the ground and seeing what it is happening on the ground. That is first-hand experience, and that first-hand experience is going to be totally different from sitting and discussing. An experience like that, I think it will be a very good experience for you guys to actually be with us and see what it is like to be on the receiving end of the stones thrown by protesters, undermining the authority of the researcher. The police officers establish a dichotomy between researching protest in the room versus experiencing protest on the ground. Suggests authentic knowledge of protest can only be generated through seeing protest. Further legitimized with action-oriented words such as getting and happening, the interview setting is undermined via its association with passivity, noted in words like sitting and discussing. Use of repetition, on the ground used thrice in a single sentence, first hand is used twice. And experience is repeated 4 times, to emphasize the practicality, materiality and authenticity of the officer's experience in comparison to the artificiality of the interviewer's talk. Use of extreme case formulations, totally different thing, totally different from, to stress the inability of talk to accurately capture an experience of protest. Captain, it's easier on the news if you hear, the police used rubber bullets and tear gas and people were throwing stones. And people are like, oh, they were throwing stones. When people sit on the couch and they listen to the news and they hear about stones being thrown, they are not thinking about half bricks. They are thinking about small pebbles maybe. Eliciting sympathy. The media consumer is positioned as removed from protest, and is thereby ill-equipped to assess protest violence. The removed, sedentary subject position of media consumers is emphasized with reference to their sitting and listening on the couch. At the same time, the police subjectivity is made invisible in the discourse. The discourse accentuates how police officers are unfairly represented in the media and the kinds of violence they endure and obscures the actions of police officers. Although police officers fire rubber bullets, the discourse renders this a product of unfair media portrayals rather than police agency. In this construction, police are only acted upon rather than themselves act. Warrant officer, I wanted to show them this Nyala armored vehicle, here, pulls out cell phone. To show researchers video of Nyala being set on fire at a protest. Captain, that was a week ago, from last week Monday, that was in Davidson. Warrant officer, officers inside the armored vehicle, had to run out, they had to run out. Sergeant, I was there. Captain, when that Nyala came out I was manning the water cannon. They came out and there was still a fire on top of the Nyala. They stopped next to me, and I had to extinguish the fire with the water cannon. With both the captain and warrant officer highlighting that they were present at the protest. Shown in the clip, the officers emphasize their lived experience of protest, a form of category entitlement and therefore the authority of the police subjectivity in matters of knowing protest activity. An account of seeing the Loch Ness Monster from a Loch Ness Monster blog. Well, we're talking about an incident that happened approximately 32 years ago, almost to the very day, midsummer, June 1965. I, along with a friend, was on the south shore of Loch Ness, fishing for brown trout, looking almost directly into Urquhart Bay, when I saw something break the surface of the water. I glanced there, and I saw it, and then it wasn't there, it had disappeared. But while watching, keeping an eye, and fishing gently, I saw an object surface. It was a large, black object, a whale-like object, going from infinity up, and came round onto a block end, and it submerged, to reappear a matter of seconds later. But on this occasion, the block end, which had been on my right, was now on my left, so I realized immediately that while in the process of surfacing, as it may, it had rotated. And with the predominant wind, the south west wind, it appeared to be I would say, at that stage drifting easily across. So I called to my friend Willie Fraser, who incidentally had a sighting of an object on the loch almost a year ago too. The very day I called him, and he come up and joined me. We realized that it was drifting towards us, and, in fact, it came to within, I would say, about 250, 300 yards. In no way am I even attempting to convert anybody to the religion of the object of Loch Ness. I mean, they can believe it, but it doesn't upset me if they don't believe it. Because I would question very much if I hadn't the extraordinary experience of seeing this object. If I hadn't seen it, I would have without question given a lot of skepticism to what it was. But I saw it, and nothing can take that away. Ian Cameron, a retired superintendent of the Northern Police Force, lives with his wife Jessie in Inverness, Scotland, at the head of the loch. A keen angler, he is an authority on the Atlantic salmon activity. What discursive devices does the speaker use when describing seeing the Loch Ness monster? How does the speaker lend legitimacy to his story? Write your answers on the Padlet link below. Summary. Discourse analysis includes approaches concerned with analyzing how people make meaning through language. Different conceptions of psychology to traditional view. DP and FDA common approaches in psychology. Language and representation construct and constitute reality. Multiple versions of reality can be constructed usually for particular purposes or ends, or due to social, historical and cultural antecedents. Further reading. Essential. Willig, C. 2013. Introducing Qualitative Research in Psychology. Berkshire, UK, McGraw-Hill. Chapters 10 and 11. Willig, C. 2015. Discourse Analysis. In J. A. Smith, ed., Qualitative Psychology, A Practical Guide to Research Methods. London, Sage. Recommended. Wiggins, S. 2017, Discursive Psychology. London, Sage. B. V. 2015, Social Constructionism. London, Routledge. Parker, I. 2014. Discourse Dynamics, Psychology Revivals Critical Analysis for Social and Individual Psychology. Routledge. Potter, J., and Wetherill, M. 1987. Discourse and Social Psychology, Beyond Attitudes and Behavior. Sage. Edwards, D., and Potter, J. 1992. Discursive Psychology. London, Sage. Useful online repository of the and FDA research and literature, https://discourseanit.com/. Additional. Parker, IED, 1998, Social Constructionism, Discourse and Realism. Sage. Edwards, D., Ashmore, M., and Potter, J. 1995. Death and Furniture, The Rhetoric, Politics and Theology of Bottom-Line Arguments Against Relativism. History of the Human Sciences, 8, 2, 25. 49. PSY 5046 Qualitative Research Methods. Workshop 1. Today. Understanding the Assessment. Understanding Moodle Resources. Choosing your research question. How will you be assessed? A qualitative research report, 90%. 3,200 words, plus /10%. Thematic analysis. You must collect data from interviews with 2 participants. Topic: being a university student, choose one of 4 research questions. Deadline: Friday the 15th of December, 2023, 3 p.m. UK time. Where? Moodle submission point. Research report, 90% of module mark. You will carry out a small-scale qualitative research project on the topic of being a university student. You must choose one of the 4 research questions provided as a focus for your project. You will interview 2 other students and analyze the transcripts of the interviews using thematic analysis, Braun and Clark, 2006. You will produce an interview schedule, a list of interview questions, to ask your participants. And you must get ethical approval for these questions before carrying out the interviews. You will write a full research report, 3,200 words, to show the findings of your research. Abstract. Literature review. Methods. Analysis. Discussion. References. Appendices. How will you be assessed? Ethics quiz, 10%. Answer 10 multiple choice questions. You can have 3 attempts, highest mark counts. You must complete this quiz before you can submit your interview questions to be reviewed. Remember, if you do not submit your interview questions, you will not be able to carry out your interviews and complete the report. Deadline: Friday the 27th of October, 2023, 3 p.m. UK time. Where? Moodle quiz. Important: the quiz will open on Monday the 9th of October, so complete as soon as possible. What support is available to you? Lectures will give you understanding of qualitative research methods and practice of using these methods. These workshops will provide you with guidance in conducting your research and writing your report. Each week there will be structured activities to help with this. You should also use this time to work on your research report and ask your tutor questions. The assessment guidance document, available on the Moodle page, explains what you need to write in each of the sections of your report. You can also ask questions on the Moodle Q&A forum. Other important deadlines. Monday the 16th of October, 2023 formative literature review submission. Friday the 27th of October, 2023 when you have completed the ethics quiz you must submit your interview schedule for ethical review. You must not carry out your interviews until you have received ethical approval. Task 1. Download, save, on OneDrive, and read the assessment briefs for the research report, 90%. And ethics quiz, 10%. Do you understand the module learning outcomes and the assessment criteria? Do you have any questions about what you will be doing? Module learning outcomes. 1. Demonstrate understanding of qualitative methodologies, including underlying rationales. 2. Design, construct, and carry out a small-scale qualitative research project. 3. Apply a qualitative analysis to produce an appropriate interpretation of the data. 4. Synthesize and appraise research findings in relation to existing literature and recognize subsequent implications. Task 2. Helping you to navigate the Moodle page. Using the Moodle page, try to find out as much information as you can, work with others or individually, answer these questions and make sure you save all the required documents on your BCU OneDrive account. Name all members of teaching staff. What is your essential reading for this module? What are your deadlines for your formative and summative submissions? What is your word count for the report? What is the latest date you can complete the ethics quiz and submit your interview questions? For ethical review, download and save to OneDrive the assessment guidance document. Task 3. Reading qualitative research. Look in the Week 1 workshop folder and pick 2 of the journal articles. In pairs or triads, identify the following. Research question or aim: what were they trying to find out? The mode of data collection, for example interviews, focus groups, secondary data. The type of analysis: how did they analyze the data? For example thematic analysis, discourse analysis, IPA. Task 4. Choosing your research question. Whenever we do research, it is important that we have a research question to guide us. This is what we want to find out by doing the research. We have told you that the topic of your research is university students, but you also need to choose a research question to narrow down the focus of your research. Open the document on Moodle called Research Questions, go to the Assessment Hub tab. Research Report Resources, PSY 5046 Qualitative Research Methods and Analysis _research. Questions _23-24.docx. Read through the 4 possible research questions. Decide which one you would like to use. This will be the focus of your research for the rest of the semester and the question your report should address. You should not change the wording of this research question. Ask your tutor if you have any questions and let them know which research question you have chosen. Other tasks to do if you have not already done so. Read the assessment briefs. Complete the cover sheet with your information and read through the marking criteria listed. Under the learning outcomes, make notes of anything you are unsure about. Workshop next week. Literature searching. Introducing discourse analysis in psychology. Dr. Josephine Cornell.